I had seen her like this before, caught between half-truths and half-buried fears, but today her eyes were different. There was a softness in them, a quiet burn, like a warm breath brushing against a secret she never said aloud. And when she turned and looked at me, that gaze slipped straight into my chest, silent, heavy, and impossibly intimate. I never understood why she looked at me that way. She would run a hand through her hair as she walked, slow enough to make time tilt, as if she knew I was watching. Then she'd pause, just long enough to send something trembling through me. A small, wordless smile, holding more ache than mischief. There had always been something unfinished between us, a sentence we never dared complete. Maybe she was the fire, and I was the smoke. Or maybe I was the fire, burning myself on the idea of her. But today I saw her with another man. The sunlight was soft, the street quiet. She stood close to him, not too close, just enough that even the air seemed to understand something was happening between them. And I stood there, frozen. A knot tightened inside me, the kind that forms when something old begins to break. Maybe what I felt was never love. Maybe it was just the illusion of it. But whatever it was, it hit me hard. And yet, the way she looked at him for a second, and then immediately looked away, there was something in that moment. Something that whispered that this story wasn't over. That something inside her was still burning, hidden behind the quiet movements of her face, behind the spaces she wouldn't let me see. And right then, right in that breath of a moment, I made a decision. If I had seen it, then everyone else would see it too. The story begins now. I didn't expect her to follow me. But a few minutes after I walked away, I heard her footsteps behind me, soft, hesitant, like even the pavement could sense the weight between us. I stopped near the edge of the street, the fading sunlight brushing against my shoulders. When I turned, she was already looking at me. And the moment our eyes met, everything I was trying to hide surged up again: confusion, jealousy, desire, and something that felt dangerously close to longing. "Why did you leave like that?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. "I didn't think I owed you an explanation," I replied, though the words tasted like a lie. Because if anyone could pull honesty out of me without trying, it was her. She stepped closer. Not too close, just enough that I felt the air shift. Enough that I could see the tiny tremor in her breath. "You saw," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "I saw." Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? No. It was something softer, more fragile. Like she didn't want the moment with that man to matter. Not to me. "I didn't think it would bother you," she said. "But it did," I answered, the truth slipping out before I could catch it. Silence fell between us, heavy, charged. Her hand brushed against mine, maybe by accident, maybe not. Even that tiny contact sent a warm jolt through my entire body. She didn't pull away. I didn't either. "You shouldn't feel this," she murmured. "Then stop looking at me like that," I said softly. Her breath hitched. She looked away, then back at me, eyes full of something she was too afraid to name. Her fingers hovered near mine again, like she wanted to hold on but couldn't cross that edge. "Everything gets complicated when you're near," she said. "And everything makes sense when you are," I replied. The wind shifted her hair across her cheek. Without thinking, I reached up and brushed it back. My fingertips didn't even graze her skin, but the closeness was enough to burn. She swallowed, lips parting slightly. For a second, I thought she would step into me. Instead, she whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready for what happens after." "Then let's stay here," I said. "Just right here. In this moment." Her eyes lifted, soft and trembling. "And if the moment pulls us closer?" she asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The street was quiet, but the world inside our shared gaze was anything but. Every step I took toward her felt like wading through water, slow and heavy, weighted by unspoken truths. Her shoulders stiffened, a subtle shift that told me she was bracing for something neither of us was ready to name. I shouldn't be here," she murmured, but her eyes stayed locked on mine. There was a flicker of vulnerability there, a secret she wasn't willing to speak, yet one that floated between us like an invisible thread pulling tighter with every heartbeat. I took a careful step closer. "Then why are you?" Her lips parted slightly, as if the answer teetered on the edge of being spoken, then vanished. She lifted her hand, hesitant, and our fingers brushed, an almost accident that lingered far too long to be purely by chance. A shiver ran through me at the touch. She didn't pull away immediately, and neither did I. The tension thickened, heavy in the golden air around us, as if time had slowed and held us suspended. "I can't not think about it," she admitted finally, voice low. "Not you. Not this." "Me?" I asked, my own voice catching in the quiet. "Yes," she whispered, eyes dropping. Then back up again, glimmering with a mixture of fear and longing. "Everything feels like it's moving too fast, or maybe too slow." We stood there, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from each other, yet far enough to maintain the fragile walls we had built around our hearts. I wanted to cross them. I wanted to lean in and let everything spill into a single, impossible moment. But the weight of her hesitation, the hint of some invisible boundary, held me back. She moved slightly, almost closing the gap, then stopped. Her gaze fell to my chest for a heartbeat, then returned to meet mine. The air between us thrummed with something neither of us could name. Desire, yes, but also fear, regret, and perhaps the echo of past mistakes neither of us could risk repeating. "I can't," she said softly, though her fingers stayed near mine, suspended in that liminal space between touch and retreat. "Neither can I," I admitted. And in that confession, the tension stretched even tighter, thick with all the things we wanted, but couldn't yet claim. We stood like that for what felt like an eternity, breath brushing against breath, eyes locked, hearts hammering, the world fading into the background. Every glance, every subtle movement, whispered the same thing: we were dangerously close, yet still worlds apart. The street had emptied, leaving only the hum of distant traffic and the whisper of the evening breeze. We didn't move closer, yet the space between us vibrated like a string pulled taut, every glance, every shallow breath amplifying the silence. I could feel her presence like a charge in the air, and I knew she felt me too. "I can't," she started, voice trembling, then swallowed the words. Her hands were just inches from mine, fingers hovering, hesitant yet refusing to retreat. I didn't pull away either. The hesitation itself became a language, a confession we hadn't dared speak. "Why do we keep doing this to ourselves?" I asked softly, barely more than a whisper. Her eyes shimmered in the golden light. "Because I don't know if I can stop feeling this," she admitted. Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment, the world seemed to vanish, the city, the traffic, the quiet street, all replaced by the electricity of what was unsaid, what could never be fully named. I took a tiny step closer, careful, almost reverent. Her gaze lifted to meet mine, unwavering, vulnerable, full of a longing that mirrored my own. The tension between us was thick, almost tangible. My chest ached with it, a hunger I could neither satisfy nor deny. Her hand twitched near mine again, the faintest brush of fingertips grazing mine. The contact was so slight, yet it sent a tremor through both of us. Neither of us spoke, as if words would shatter the fragile, charged bubble we existed in. Her breathing hitched softly, and I could feel every heartbeat echoing between us, a rhythm that wasn't just mine or hers, but something shared. "You're dangerous," she whispered finally, almost to herself, almost a warning. "I know," I said, and the word carried all the weight of desire, fear, and surrender wrapped into one. Our eyes locked, and everything seemed to pause, the world, time, even our own thoughts. We were standing on the edge of something we had wanted for so long, yet still held back from. The air between us hummed. My hand twitched, almost touching her arm, and for a breath, I imagined the collision of our closeness, the softness, the heat, the release that hung just beyond our control. And then silence. The kind of silence so full it pressed against your chest and left you shaking. We didn't move. We didn't speak. But in that charged pause, every longing, every desire, every fear we'd harbored until now throbbed loudly, together, and impossible to ignore. The night had wrapped the city in quiet velvet, rain tapping softly against the street lights, turning everything into a blur of gold and silver reflections. The air smelled of wet asphalt and the faint scent of her perfume, a mix of something familiar and impossible to resist. I didn't speak. She didn't speak. We didn't need words. We were close, so close that the space between us no longer existed. Her shoulder brushed against mine, tentative at first, then lingering, as if both of us were testing the weight of the moment. Her breath melted into mine, a slow, warming rhythm that spoke everything we had kept locked inside. Each inhale carried a confession, each exhale a surrender. The rain fell harder, drumming softly over our coats and umbrellas, but inside our bubble, the world fell away. Every shiver of her arm against mine, every slight tilt of her head, every pulse of her heartbeat pressed into mine, became a language we could understand without saying a single word. Our bodies spoke the words we couldn't say aloud. "I've wanted this for so long," she whispered, almost inaudible, letting her hand brush against mine, deliberate now, electric. "And I've waited," I answered, letting the wet strands of her hair brush my cheek. Our eyes met in the dim glow of the streetlights, and everything else, the night, the rain, the world beyond this quiet corner, ceased to exist. Her hand rose slowly to my chest, fingers splayed, feeling the rapid beat of my heart. My thumb traced along the edge of her knuckles, a silent promise of presence and understanding. The rain soaked our coats, our hair clinging to our skin, but it didn't matter. Every drop that landed on us seemed to amplify the tension, the closeness, the electric hum that had been building for weeks. Her lips hovered near mine, a whisper away. I could feel the heat of her breath, the softness of her cheek, the subtle pressure of her fingers against me. We moved together without thinking, a slow, inevitable alignment, like two halves finally finding their fit. The world outside could wait. The storm could rage or soften. The only thing that existed was this moment, where every longing, every restraint, every fear melted into something urgent and tender. "I'm yours," she breathed. Not a demand, not a surrender, but a confession. And I responded, not with words, but with the way I held her, the way my body leaned into hers, the way our hearts hammered together in sync. Every shiver, every tremble, every slow breath told the story of desire, restraint, and release. Time fractured. There were no minutes, no seconds, only us, only the electric hum of rain, breath, and skin against skin. Our lips didn't need to meet for the night to burn bright, for our hearts to speak louder than any words ever could. And in that quiet, wet, breathtaking night, we finally let go. The morning light seeped softly through the blinds, painting the room in pale gold and muted shadows. Silence stretched between us like a fragile thread, unbroken yet heavy with everything unsaid. We didn't move to speak, didn't move to reach, yet the echo of last night lingered in every glance, every shallow breath, every heartbeat that refused to settle. I watched her as she sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped loosely in her lap. Her hair, damp from rain, fell in soft strands across her face. She didn't meet my eyes at first, and I didn't push. The quiet was our confession. The way the sunlight caught her profile made it feel like she was suspended in time, both close and impossibly far. "Do you regret it?" I asked finally, voice low, almost afraid of breaking the stillness. She looked up, eyes glimmering with a mixture of wonder, confusion, and the faintest trace of guilt. "I don't know," she admitted. Maybe I needed it. Maybe I needed to feel something real, even if it scared me." I nodded, understanding more than words could carry. "It wasn't just the moment," I said softly. "It's everything leading up to it. I don't think I've ever felt so seen, so alive, and so terrified all at once." A small, almost shy smile tugged at her lips. She reached out, brushing a finger against my hand, a gentle reminder of the connection we'd finally acknowledged. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. Enough to shatter the last layers of restraint, yet delicate enough to leave space for reflection. Then, Almost like a ripple across calm water, the door creaked. Neither of us moved immediately, eyes widening, heart skipping. A visitor. Someone neither of us expected. The knock was soft but deliberate. She froze. I froze. Maybe some truths don't wait for morning, I whispered. And in that, the reality of our choices, our desire, our tangled hearts pressed in from all sides. Yet even with the tension, the uncertainty, and the unexpected arrival, something had shifted. Something that couldn't be undone. Our hands brushed again, fleeting, electric, and I realized that no matter the consequences, the connection between us had deepened in ways either of us could deny. And for now, that was enough. The morning had passed into afternoon, sunlight warmer now, gentler, wrapping the room in soft, golden calm. The rain from the night before had left the streets glistening, and with it, the heaviness of tension had finally begun to settle. We didn't speak at first. Words felt unnecessary. Instead, I reached out, and she leaned her forehead against mine. Just that small, deliberate contact carried the weight of everything: longing, hesitation, relief, and trust. Our breaths mingled, slow and steady, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, the world felt quiet enough for us to simply exist together. "I'm glad it's us," she whispered, voice soft, warm, unhurried. "Me too," I replied, letting my hands rest gently at her sides. The small space between us seemed infinite and intimate all at once. No drama, no grand gestures, just a slow, deliberate choice to stay. Our hearts, stubborn and tender, had finally chosen peace. We lingered like that, letting silence hold us, letting soft touches, quiet smiles, and slow, shared breaths tell the story words could not. It was not perfect, not rushed, not cinematic in a conventional sense. It was real, grounded, and full of the depth we had built together, fragile yet resilient. When we finally pulled back, our hands stayed intertwined, fingers threaded, reluctant to let go. I kissed the top of her head, and she pressed her cheek against mine. And in that small, sacred moment, I realized that love, messy, complicated, passionate, patient love, was what we had found. Even if the world pulled at us, even if life demanded distractions and challenges, that moment, that connection, was ours. Indelible, warm, and permanent in memory and heart. And for now, that was enough.